Here's the second part of 1.6. We're going to talk about linear pairs and vertical angles. So first off, linear pairs. Linear pairs are two adjacent angles that are linear pairs when their non-common sides are opposite sides. The angles in a linear pair are supplementary. So that's kind of confusing writing it all out. So linear pairs are two angles that are next to each other. We call that adjacent. Adjacent means next to. So two angles that are next to each other that are supplementary. They have to be next to each other. They share a common side right there. They share a vertex. Linear pairs have to be next to each other. If they aren't next to each other, they are not a linear pair. Linear pairs, once again, always add to 180. So let's get down here, and it says name all the following, all the linear pairs. So linear pairs are two angles that add to be 180 degrees, and they have to be next to each other. So here's my straight line, and I can see here are two angles that add to be 180 degrees. So angle 1 and angle 4 are a linear pair. Always look for those straight lines because straight lines help me get linear pairs. So here's another straight line. I can see right here, those two angles are right next to each other and they form that half circle or that straight line. So I can say angle 4 and angle 5 are going to be linear pairs. All right. Go down to B. When viewed from the side, the frame of a basketball return net form linear pairs with the ground. Find measure of angle BCE and measure of ECD. So I have the straight line right here. Remember, straight lines are 180. These two angles add to be 180 because it says right in my problem that they form a linear pair, and linear pairs are 180 degrees. So those two angles add to be 180 degrees. So we add our like terms. Subtract your 12. So you got 180 minus 12, and you get 168. Divide by 8. Get 21. So I know the value of x is 21. But remember, it did not ask me to find x. It asked me to find the measure of BCE, and BCE is this angle right here. We're going to find the measure of this angle, and I'm just going to plug in where x is. So 5 times 21 plus 10. 5 times 21 plus 10, you can see that's 115 degrees. So the measure of angle BCE equals 115 degrees. Then I'm going to plug in, because it also asked me to find ECD. ECD is this angle in here. So we're going to take this and we're going to plug in our 21, which is our value for x. So 3 times 21 plus 2. The measure of angle ECD is equal to 65 degrees. And that's that problem. All right, let's talk about vertical angles now. So vertical angles are two angles are vertical when their sides form two opposite pairs of rays. Okay, once again, these definitions are a little confusing here. So vertical angles are when two lines intersect. Okay, so you have to have two intersecting lines. Vertical angles are across from each other. So this angle, angle 3, and angle 6 are vertical because they are across from each other. They are also congruent. They are the same measure. Same thing up here. Angle 4 and angle 5, those are vertical angles because they're across from each other. See, they're right across from each other. And they are also congruent. So think about like an X, the top of an X, the bottom of an X, the left of an X, the right of an X. So they have to be across from each other in order to be vertical. So if I'm looking in here, my vertical angles, I can see here's a straight line and here's a straight line. And the angles that form are going to cause vertical angles. So angle 1 is vertical to angle 5. Now, if you notice, we do have other vertical angles in here. Angle 4 is going to be vertical to angle 2 and angle 3 put together. So angle 4 is vertical to angle 2 plus angle 3, like when they add together. So it's the whole thing. All of this and all of this, they are all congruent. All right, so in here, our next problem says find the measure of all the following angles. So I got to find all these bunch. So the biggest thing to do first is to look here and try to find all the angles that you can. So I see this right angle. This right angle tells me that this right here, this angle in here adds to be 90 degrees. So if this piece is 27 degrees, this piece is 90 minus 27. So 90 minus 27 is 63 degrees. So angle D, get rid of that, angle DFE is 63 degrees. Now, the straight line here is 180 degrees. So remember, if I can do the half circle to make it a straight line, that means all of these angles added together equal 180. So in order to find this missing angle right here, I'm going to take my total, which is 180, take away 39, take away the 27, and take away the 63. So you got 180, take away the 39 angle, take away the 27 angle, take away the 63 angle, and you're left with 51 degrees of that angle right in there. So now I found all the missing pieces. Now let's go through and find what we're looking for. So it says DFE. From D to F to E is this angle right in here, and this guy is 63 degrees. Then I have CFA. So CFA. These angles added together will equal 51 plus 39 is 90 degrees. Also, you could know that right away, because you see if this is 90, that means this guy has to be 90 as well, because he is a right angle, and two right angles make 180, and the straight line is 180. So CFB is next. CFB is this angle in here, and we can see he's 51 degrees. Then we have AFD. So AFD, it's all three of these angles added together to help me find that angle. So we've got 39 plus 51 plus 27, 117 degrees. Okay, so next one says find the measure of all the angles. All right, so once again, I see this right angle right in here. So that means these two angles added together equal 90. So if this angle is 30, 90 minus 30 is 60 degrees. All right, now I also see this straight line right here. These angles added together equal 180 degrees. So 180 minus 30, this angle is 150 degrees. Now if I notice that here's a straight line and here's a straight line, so this angle is 30, which means this angle is also 30. We call that vertical. They're vertical angles, so they are congruent. All right, so now I got to figure out these angles over here. So what I do notice is here's a straight line. All these angles added together equal 180 degrees. So I've got this angle is 30, this angle is 60. I also notice I have these tick marks in here. These tick marks mean that these two angles are congruent. So if I have 180 total degrees, take away the 30, take away the 60 that you already see, there are 90 degrees left for these two angles right in here. So this angle right here is 90 degrees. We know it's 90. So that means it's a right angle. We can make the little right angle mark. So if they're equal, I could do 90 divided by 2. And this guy's 45 degrees and this guy's 45 degrees. Because of those tick marks, we know they're equal measure. That's why they're 45. All right, lastly, I see two lines that intersect. And remember, when I have two lines that intersect, opposite angles are congruent. So this angle and this angle are congruent because they're vertical. They're across from each other. So if they're congruent, I can say 60 is equal to 6b minus 6. They're congruent to each other, you set them equal. Add 6, you get 66 equals 6b. Divide by 6. B is equal to 11. And you're done. And this guy, I see my two straight lines right here. But notice I don't have anything across from each other like the last problem. There's nothing across from each other. So what I do see is two lines next to each other. And remember, we call that a linear pair. Linear pairs add to be 180 degrees. So what I can do is say 4q plus 1 plus 3q minus 3 equals 180 degrees. They're a linear pair. They're supplementary. That means they add to 180 degrees. I add my q's together, I get 7q. I add my numbers, 1 minus 3 is negative 2, equal to 180. Add 2. I get 7q is equal to 182. Divide by 7. And then we get 182 divided by 7. And you get q is equal to 26. And the question asked me to find q, and we found it. And those are all our video notes for 1.6.